Hi all, I have to apologize in advance. I've never made a YouTube video before, and this is pretty lengthy and confusing. So leave your comments and I will try and do much better on the next video. Thanks in advance. So on February 4th, 1840, John Willis gets Crown Grant Lot 15. It's recorded as Grant Volume 23, number 2066 on page 197, 200 acres. These grants were given out after families petitioned the Crown and were working on the land and abiding by what their obligations were to make the petition, before the Crown gave them the grant. Some families had already been living on the land for years, some for even decades, before their grant was recorded. Going forward, John Willis's name is on the Crown grant map that is also on the Service New Brunswick's website on the link I showed earlier. This link is for the Provincial Archives databank of land grants, like the Willises shown here. There is also a link to the petitions so we can see how long they waited. Important, but I will be going over that in a different video. So John Willis and his family occupy the land for the next 17 years. By 1857, John has passed away and his son, James Willis, now has possession of it. In February of 1857, Willis, master shipwright, enters a mortgage with the Honorable John Ferguson for £60 for the entire Lot 15. It's volume 16, number 18 on page 26, February 28, 1857. You can see Ferguson signs it off July 31st, 1857, because the day before, James Willis enters a mortgage with James Nevins Sr., July 30th, 1857, for the same lot, forcing Honorable John Ferguson to close out his mortgage with Willis. Anyway, the underlined words are, I, John Ferguson, the mortgagee, 31st day of July, AD, 1857, and John Ferguson's signature. The picture is one of James Willis's ships, the Genghis Khan. He moves on to Newcastle, New Brunswick. Notably, he was born in Newcastle, Tyne, England, to become a successful shipbuilder. He died in 1898 at 84 years old. I'm just trying to add character to the people associated with our property, so it's not just all names and deeds and documents. Like I said, James Willis enters a mortgage with James Nevins Sr. July 30th, 1857 for the same Lot 15, all 200 acres. Volume 16, 74 and 75 starting on page 112. Grantor, Willis, doesn't ultimately sign off on the Nevins Sr. mortgage until the 6th of March, 1861, as it shows here. So James Nevins Sr. does own entire Lot 15 in 1861. Please look up all these documents if you want to read them in their entirety. In the meantime, after the Nevins have been living on Lot 15 for a couple of years, in October of 1859, James Nevins Sr. and his wife Mary deed the north half of Grant Lot 15 to their son, James Nevins Jr. for 5 shillings, which was common back then, like our $1 transfer when it's for family. It's volume 17, number 26, page 34, October 27, 1859. Nevins Sr. is still under mortgage with James Willis until Willis signs off in 1861, so this deed doesn't come into effect until then. The underlined words are just to help you pick out the important stuff if you're pausing. Pay attention to this deed, as Service New Brunswick used this deed in their chain and connect it to the fake deed William J. O'Brien will create in 1883 using this deed, which will be volume 29, 161 on page 234, but we'll go over that in more length later. Now, the Nevins family have been living on Lot 15 since July of 1857, 11 and a half years, with Senior Nevins living on the south half and Junior on the north half. The north half is what my immediately family still owns today, and the south half is still owned by cousins. In January of 1869, the Senior Nevins finalizes another mortgage with the Honorable John Ferguson, this time from an agreement they made May 6, 1863. Ferguson wasn't able to buy the property from the original Willis land grant holders in 1857, but he is still interested, so has been paying a mortgage for 6 years. Now Ferguson owns the south half from James Nevins Sr. for $80 in 1869. This deed describes the property as being bounded by the river and by the other moiety, or half, the north half of Lot 15, owned by James Nevins Jr. That's the half Sr. and his wife deeded to James Jr. in 1859 and which Willis signed off on in 1861. This deed from Nevins Sr. to Ferguson is volume 21, number 136 on page 208, January 30th, 1869. The underlined words again for your benefit. 2 years later, on December 8, 1870, James Nevins and James Nevins Jr. sell the north half of Lot 15 to the Honorable John Ferguson. They both sell or sign the deed to Ferguson, as Willis hadn't signed off on the Nevins Jr. 1859 deed until 1861 that he had with Sr., so they both now sign off. And now Jr.'s north half of Lot 15 also belongs to John Ferguson. This deed is volume 22, deed 124 on page 205. So with this deed and deed volume 21, 136 on page 208 from 1869, the Honorable John Ferguson now owns the entire Lot 15. The underlined words again for your benefit. This is a legitimate deed that James Nevins Jr. relinquishes his land to John Ferguson in 1870. So far it's pretty clear. Willis gets the grant in 1840. In 1857 it gets mortgaged to the Nevins and signed off in 1861. In 1869 the south half of Lot 15 gets deeded to John Ferguson by Sr. Then in 1870 the north half of Lot 15 gets deeded to John Ferguson by both the Nevins Sr. and Jr. The entire Lot 15 is now owned by the Honorable John Ferguson in 1870. From here I will just try to follow the chain to the north half of Lot 15 to keep things simplified, but as you will see, they keep getting connected. 5 years almost to the day, December 2nd, 1875, John Ferguson sells the north half of Lot 15, and possibly the south half, to Samuel Branch and Isabella, his wife, for $300. He cites all the proper deeds and dates, as are noted earlier, in a clear and proper deed, and I've added those deed numbers that they reference in black for easy verification. This deed is volume 26, deed 319 on page 535, December 2nd, 1875. Then I underline some of the important information. In April of 1879, after having the land for 3.5 years, Samuel Branch and his wife Isabella sell the north half of Lot 15, 100 acres, to John A. Good, and possibly the south half with it, for $400. At this time, these branches also own Lot 14 South, bordering Lot 15 on the north, which they also sell to John A. Good's brother, James Good, consecutively on the very same day for $300. Again, their deed has very clear chain of title included. Volume 27, deed 66, page 136 is John's, and volume 27, deed 67 is James's, both on April 17, 1879. At this time, these branches also own, well, Isabella, Lot 16, bordering Lot 15 to the south. Again, I added the actual deeds in black that the deed is referencing with dates for easy verification. You can see here James Good's south half of Lot 14, John A. Good's at least north half of Lot 15. Samuel and Isabella Branch own these 3 lots highlighted in yellow. They own other land as well, but I'm just dealing with this chunk. an agreement by John A. Good with Ivers Adams a few months later, still in 1879, which I will show, demonstrates that John A. Good owns the entire Lot 15 by October of 1879. This is the first deed of my direct relatives owning property on this side of the river, and particularly Lot 15, where we still live today. Prior to this, the Goods owned, lived, and were born on the other side of the river, or rough waters. Some of that land they sold to Honorable John Ferguson and some to John E. O'Brien, famous for John E. O'Brien shipyards in Bathurst. My other great-great relatives, the Batemans, also owned a lot of adjoining land on the rough waters side. But again, trying not to get sidetracked. This is an important deed. It's the deed where John A. Good has the original agreement with Ivers W. Adams that allows him one chain of 66 feet and access from the high road, but retains any grass or crops for his own, John's, and his heirs' benefit. The index snippet shows the earlier Goods deed from rough water side of the river to family members. John Ferguson and John E. O'Brien, showing these people all know each other going back a decade or so.